With the scrolling element, the way it works in 1943 Battle of Midway is that there's almost like two separate objects. There's the object that scrolls the screen forwards, and then the player can then move around that area of play and is kind of separate to it. What we don't want to do is set the scroll to the player, because then we don't want the player to have control over that. We want to kind of force the player through the level, and then the player can sort of move around in the arena of battle, so to speak. So we're going to create two objects. There's going to be a scroll object and a separate player object. So let's go to our layers. I'm going to lock the tile set, go to the game layer, and I'm going to create the scroll object that's going to control the movement through the level. So right click, insert new object, and I'm just going to create a sprite. Now it doesn't matter what this looks like, so it's not going to be visible. It's just going to be an element that controls the scroll. So I'm just going to give it foot fill, give it a color, and set the size. Resize the image canvas by clicking on that, and set it to 32 by 32. Okay, I'm going to set the origin of that to the center. This is the origin set and image point set tool button here. Just going to click on that and show you it again. So there it is, and there's the XY coordinates. Okay, so if you want to adjust that, you can just type it in. So that positions it in the corner, or you can position it in the center. So let's close that down. So now I've got, oops, still in my tile set. Control Z undoes, by the way. So let's click on our sprite and then rename that to scroll. Okay, so now I can click on that and position it. Now I need to change the origin point, because you can see I want it in the center, dead center. So let's double click on that, go back to the origin point and set that to 0, 0. Okay, so now it's in that corner, and I can move it around and it's locked into that grid. Let's just zoom in a bit. So you can see on the sprite object there's this little kind of widget here, and this is its indicates its angle. Now you can't change the angle orientation of a sprite in Construct, which can be a bit annoying. So if the way this is going to work is I'm going to assign a bullet behavior on it to make it move, and if I assign that, I need to sort of set the angle of it. So currently it's sort of facing right, because that's what that tells you, that little widget bit there. So I'm going to change the angle of it, and I do that by clicking on scroll object, and then in the common properties you can see the angle dialog there. So I'm going to change that to 270. So now it's facing up the screen. So the way the angles work is right, direct right is 0, then 90 degrees bottom, and then left is 180, and then top is 270. Okay, so then I can set that, and I want to position it halfway in my view screen. This will become important later. So my window view is 640 in height, so half of that is 320. Where's my calculator? So I'm just gonna minus 320 from that, 2880. So in the position, I'm going to change that to 2880, and half is 220. Oops, no, it's not, it's 224. Okay, so that's in the middle of our screen. If we just play that out now, run the layout. we haven't set to scroll to that particular object yet, so it's just going straight into the middle of the layer, the middle of the level. So we need to add to this the scroll behavior. So right click, behaviors, add, scroll to. Close that down. Now when we play the game, it's taken it to the scroll object. Remember, this is going to be invisible. So now I'm going to make it move. I'm going to right click and add a behavior. I'm going to add the bullet behavior. And this is just a form of movement that moves in one direction. Let's just go to the scroll and look at the behaviors there. So it's got speed, acceleration, gravity, bounce off solids, set angle, initial state enabled. We want it to start immediately for now. So initial state is enabled. The set angle property, so the sprite will face in the direction that it's traveling in. We don't need that, so we'll set that to no. The speed is something we're going to sort out later, but for now I'm just going to set it to 100, and then it will run the game, and it should start moving up the screen. Okay, so that's a little bit fast, but you can see it's working. So let's adjust the speed to get it something that's a bit more what we're looking at. Let's try 30 pixels per second. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, I think that's about right. Obviously, for your game, you're running faster or slower depending on the the kind of the game you're creating. You can create a sense of depth using the parallax scrolling options. So let's go to our layers. Obviously, the further you away from an object and you're traveling over it, it will appear to move slower than the objects that are closer. So let's go to the background layer 1 and the parallax. So on the tile set and the game level, the parallax is going to set to the full speed. So we want to slow down the scrolling basically on these layers here. So the background one will be the slowest, so let's set that to 50. Which is done here. And on the second background layer, let's set that to 75. Okay, and then run that. So you can see now that the bottom layer is moving slower, the cloud layer is moving slightly faster, and the top layer is moving at the normal speed. You could also have parallax layers moving faster as well. So like you could have another layer of clouds maybe on top that are running at twice the speed if you wanted to, create more depth in it.